When the sky hung too low, and the things that reached down through it. You never really notice the height of the sky until the day it changes. For most of my life, the sky was just a backdrop, something that existed far above thought, a blue or gray ceiling that belonged to weather reports and nothing more. But last winter, something happened over our town that no one could explain. At first, it was subtle. Clouds that seemed closer than usual, low enough that you felt you could almost touch them from a ladder. Then they sank even lower, brushing the tops of street lamps, hugging rooftops, dragging slow trails of mist along the ground. The news called it a rare atmospheric event. Our mayor urged calm. Schools stayed open. Life continued. But I remember the evening I stepped out of my house and felt the sky push against the top of my head. It wasn't fog. It wasn't a cloud. It was the sky itself, as though the weight of the heavens had sagged downward and forgotten where it was supposed to rest. The animals knew before we did. Birds vanished completely within 24 hours. Stray dogs hid under cars, trembling. Cows refused to leave their barns and bellowed at darkness no one else could see. But it wasn't until the third night that we realized something was moving above the lowered sky. Sometimes, in the right angle of light, I saw shapes drifting behind the thin veil of cloud. Not like planes or birds. More like fingers dragging across the inside of an enormous sheet, feeling for something beneath. The first disappearance happened when an old man in town went outside to smoke. The neighbors found his lighter, still lit, lying on the ground. And in the sky above? A deep, slow ripple, as though something had just withdrawn its hand. Panic spread quickly after that. People stopped leaving their houses at night. Someone tried firing a shotgun straight upward, but the pellets never came back down, as if the sky absorbed them. The next morning, gouge marks streaked across the clouds overhead, long and parallel, like claw trails dragged through fog. The air became colder, heavier. Breathing began to feel like inhaling through wet cloth. But staying inside didn't help. When the sky is too low, it doesn't matter if there are walls between you and whatever is pressing against it. You can still hear it. I heard it for the first time while lying in bed, a slow, creaking stretch, like an old house settling, but coming from above my ceiling, no, through my ceiling. As if something huge shifted its weight on the atmosphere itself. On the sixth day, the first sky marks appeared. Long, black vertical streaks running down the sides of buildings, as though something had dragged tendrils or knuckles along the exterior walls. Scientists came to investigate, but their devices malfunctioned. Their drones didn't rise more than 10 feet before freezing midair and falling, shattered. They left before sunset. I don't blame them. That night, the sky touched the ground for the first time. It happened on the southern end of town, where the fields were open and bare. The sky simply dipped. Like a sagging tent canvas finally collapsing. Everything beneath it, barns, fences, a man who had driven out to retrieve his cattle, simply vanished into the low-lying cloud, swallowed like insects beneath a blanket. And when the sky rose again, just a little, there was nothing left. No man. No cattle. No buildings. Just a circular dent in the earth, as if something massive had pressed down and smoothed everything away. We tried to run after that. Cars wouldn't start. Phones only showed static. The ground trembled whenever the sky moved, like a giant shifting in its sleep. I swear I saw a shape once, an enormous silhouette above the clouds, so large it stretched far beyond the horizon. Not a creature in any shape nature intended. It had too many joints, too many limbs bending in too many wrong directions. And every so often, one of those limbs pressed down against the sky's surface, poking through the thin layer of cloud like a finger pressing against wet paper. When it did, the sky bulged downward, and anything beneath disappeared. Last night, it pressed down on my street. I watched from my window as the sky dipped, trembling, cracking, and a long, thin limb, dark and glistening, like something pulled from the deepest part of the ocean, pushed through. It brushed the ground gently, almost tenderly, feeling for movement. A neighbor's porch light flickered. Someone screamed. Then the limb retracted slowly, pulling the scream upward with it, as if reeling in a fish. And now the entire sky is lowering at once. Not dipping. Descending. Pressing closer with every minute. I can hear the creaking, stretching groan all around me as the world shrinks, as the ceiling of reality comes down inch by inch. The horizon is bending. The clouds are splitting. Something enormous is descending through the breach. The ground is shaking so violently I can barely write. If anyone reads this. If anyone survives this. It wasn't a storm. It wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't a collapse. It was something above us finally reaching far enough. And whatever it is, Whatever has been feeling along the sky like fabric has found something it wants. At first, I didn't understand what that meant, not until the trembling in the air changed. Before, the sky had been groaning downward like an exhausted lung collapsing under its own weight. Now it pulsed with purpose, like a heartbeat. A colossal, slow, thunderous rhythm that vibrated through my bones. Something above was moving with intent, not randomly probing like before. It was descending directly over the town, over me. I felt it before I saw it, a pressure like an invisible hand pressing against my skull, pushing me toward the floor. My knees hit the ground hard. The furniture rattled. The windows warped inward as though the air itself were trying to escape my home. The sound that followed was worse than any scream. A low, resonant humming that seemed to come from every direction at once, not a voice, not a roar, but a tone. A single, perfect, vibrating note that passed through the atmosphere, through the houses, through flesh. The kind of sound you don't hear with your ears, but feel in the center of your chest. A sound that makes your heartbeat skip to try to match it, to synchronize with it. A sound that says, submit. I crawled toward the door, but as I touched it, the sky outside flashed with a sickly white light, brighter than lightning but silent. My house shook like something enormous had landed on the roof, but when I looked up, I realized it wasn't the roof at all. The sky had finally lowered enough that the cloudy veil was pressed directly against the top of my home, sagging inward, quivering like stretched skin above a breathing giant. Tendrils of vapor snaked down the walls, searching. I could see shapes forming in the cloud layer now, ridges, folds, vast muscular curves shifting behind the mist. Something enormous was directly above me. The humming grew louder. Then a voice, not a human voice, not even a voice meant for ears, pressed into my mind like fingers probing soft clay. Down. The word was a command. Heavy. I felt my spine bend involuntarily, my muscles tightening against my will. My jaw clenched. My vision swam. I squeezed my eyes shut and forced a rasp of breath through my throat, refusing to bow to whatever was speaking. The sky reacted instantly. A massive limb, stretching across the entire horizon, so wide it covered streets, cars, rooftops, pushed through the cloud barrier. It didn't break the sky, it parted it like thin fabric. The limb didn't look like bone or flesh. It looked like something sculpted from the darkness between stars, textured with ridges, marked with shifting runes or scars, glistening with a fluid that dripped upward instead of down. It hung above the houses like a colossal tendon searching for its anchor. Then it lowered, gently, almost delicately, until it hovered inches above the road, dark enough to swallow light, heavy enough to bend the air. Wherever it passed, grass shriveled into powder. Asphalt cracked. Mailboxes crumpled as if bent by a child's hand. It was feeling for me. Not for a human. Not for a town. For me specifically. Whatever was up there had chosen its target. I scrambled toward the back of the house, ducking beneath the windows, but every direction I turned, the sky moved to cut me off. The clouds bulged inward like something was leaning down to follow my motions. The humming shifted pitch, narrowing, tightening, focusing like a predator's gaze. My phone buzzed suddenly, a miracle in the blackout, and I grabbed it with trembling fingers. A single notification blinked on the cracked screen. Get underground. Now. It was from my neighbor, Ellis. His house had collapsed the night before when the sky dipped for the first time in our neighborhood. I'd watched it fold from afar, swallowed whole. Ellis shouldn't be texting me. He shouldn't be anywhere. But as the limb outside swept past my window like a shadow large enough to smother the earth, fear overpowered confusion. I didn't have any underground shelter. But the old storm drains. The ones the town had sealed off decades ago. The humming suddenly spiked, and all my windows exploded inward at once. Shards of glass whirled through the room as I threw myself to the floor. A moment later, a huge, curtain-like fold of cloud pushed through the open frame, not drifting in, but reaching. The mist coalesced into long, finger-like shapes, each tapering to a point sharp enough to slice through wood. They stabbed into the floorboards, probing deeply, searching for warmth. Searching for me. I bolted, using the smoke and swirling dust as cover. The front door had been pushed inward by the pressure, but I forced it open and sprinted into the dark street. Above me, the sky peeled downward, exposing thicker cloud layers and, beyond that, vast, churning darkness. I saw an eye then. A single, enormous, lidless eye opening behind the thinning clouds. It was not round like a human's, nor slit like an animal's. It was shaped like a crack in reality itself, glowing with a pale, cold light. It was watching only me. I ran faster than I ever have in my life, not daring to look up again. Houses around me began to collapse as the sky dipped lower, pressing down upon shingles and rafters like a giant hand flattening toys. Screams echoed. A car lifted off the ground and vanished upward into the thick fog overhead, spinning like a discarded pebble. I reached the edge of town, where the road curved toward the river, and where the storm drain hatches were embedded in the old concrete. One of them had been ripped open years ago by tree roots. A dark, narrow hole, barely wide enough to crawl into. My only chance. Behind me, the gigantic limb slammed onto the road with the force of a meteor, sending shockwaves that knocked me off my feet. Asphalt ruptured. The air cracked. The limb bent toward me like a jointed finger lowering to tap its chosen object. The humming ceased. The entire sky went silent. Which meant the creature was ready. It had found me. And now it was here to take whatever it wanted. I forced myself into the storm drain, scraping my elbows raw, dragging myself deeper as the concrete shook violently above me. Dust rained down as something enormous brushed the ground overhead. The drain hissed with cold air that didn't belong underground. I crawled until the space widened, enough to turn and see the square of pale sky behind me, a square that suddenly darkened as something blocked it. A massive shape hovered over the entrance, dripping that upward flowing liquid. Not a limb. Something else. Something shaped like a face, but not a face meant to be seen by anything living. It flattened itself over the opening, sealing the world above with its presence. It whispered. Not in sound. In pressure. In weight. In inevitability. Down. And the sky above cracked like an egg. Because the thing outside, the thing lowering itself through the torn atmosphere, wasn't just reaching anymore. It was coming through. Fully. Into our world. And it had chosen me to be the first thing it touched.